Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to our fourth podcast, the Catventurous podcast. Today we've got Kimberley from Travfurler, and I'm just so happy to speak to Kimberley today. We've got lots of great questions about traveling with cats, and getting her perspective on what that means and how we can do it, and what's for the future. What's in the future of traveling with cats. So welcome, Kimberley. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So could you start off perhaps by telling us a bit about Travfurler, where we can find you on the web, how you got started, what your team is, and what your whole idea behind it was?
Yeah, so essentially we're a family-run business, originally started by myself and my fiance, really born out of going travelling ourselves with our dog, a puppy at the time, and just becoming unstuck on what products do we need, who can we go to for help, what advice is out there, and like how can we meet other people that are doing this, because we could see when we were out there were dog friendly places, cat friendly places, like people to meet, but we were like, how can we actually connect all this together and know that he's going to be happy and comfortable and safe, more importantly. So that's, sorry, Missy's just,
hello Missy.
Getting in there. So that's really where it all started. It's mainly myself and my fiance working on it 24/7, and then we have help from the rest of our family, mainly my mum and then Stephen's mum and dad, who help out with ideas and helping with orders and those kind of things. And then included on the pet side, so we have Francis, who's mine and my fiance's dog, the Frenchie, and then my mum's got a Labrador. My nan's got a Cocker Spaniel. Sorry, Missy's just about to knock things off the side. And then moving on to Missy, who's let me just bring her on. See, there we go. This is Missy. So she's got
Missy.
Quite a stern stare. She's part Persian. We think maybe the dad wasn't Persian, but she's very feisty, and she's our harness trained cat, and she lives at my mum's. She was actually mine back when I lived at my mum's address, but when I moved in with my fiance, we're right on a road, and she's so used to being with the other animals in the house, we didn't really want to move her away from that. Then we've also got on my mum's another cat called Willow, who he's quite shy, so I don't think he'll appear today. And then Stephen's mum and dad also have a cat called Oscar, and then my dad's got a dog called Tottenham. So around the family there's lots of different pets, and really mainly cats and dogs. There's a few others as well. So I think that covers everything about us. And then moving on to kind of how we've started. So we just started online, so that's www.travfurler.com, and we started on social media on the community side, and really we're just trying to grow our range of pet travel products from that, and grow outwards and connect with businesses and people to try and help them travel with pets safely, essentially.
Yeah, you've done a really great job of that. I mean, you've got a really great, you're a really great sort of almost connector in the community. We all know you and we all appreciate you. So perhaps I'll use that to segue into, you've been really great supporters of the Cats on Leash community, and we all really, really appreciate that, and particularly during the campaign when we had the Cats on Leash awareness campaign, you were right in there helping us. So can you speak a little bit? I mean, we're kind of speaking more about the cat traveling side.
Yeah.
So how do you see your role in that Cats on Leash community?
Yeah. So as I touched on with Missy, so she's our harness trained cat, but actually before Missy, I used to have another rescue cat who was harness trained. I used to take out a lot traveling in the van, or up and down the country whilst I was with somebody who was working. And so from that, really, I saw the struggles and kind of challenges, and leading on with Missy again, and seeing the community cat, adventure cat community really has really opened our eyes to what we already perceived and thought, that there's a lot of help needed, I think, for people who aren't sure if they should do it or can do it. What products do they need for that? Where can we go to for advice? And really that's where we see ourselves being able to help. Our whole ethos really is around wherever you go with your pet, and the idea of that is when you have a strong bond with a pet, you don't want to leave them behind, but also you want to enrich their life, and you can do that by taking them out. So providing you have the right tools and you've done the right training, we aim to be able to help with that, and make both yours and your pet's life better, whether it's cat, dog, and do you see that's what I mean?
Yeah, no, that, I mean, we love that philosophy. I mean, it's so true. I think that there's being a real culture shift in the way that we view our pets, and particularly cats. I mean, I love dogs too, but I'm coming from the perspective of cats, and it's a new phenomenon, really. This idea of traveling with cats and taking cats with you wherever you go. And so I love that philosophy and that kind of promotion you do for that aspect of things. Anyone who takes their cat out on leash really wants to travel with them. So it's a great marriage. Yeah.
Specifically around travel as well, when you think, even when you're without a cat, the aim really is to be lightweight, so you can maneuver easily. And I think when you think about specifically pets, cats actually in general are smaller, and they actually, taking the personality to one side to start with, there actually makes sense to be more of a suitable pet for travel. So it does make sense that more people are now turning to it, and especially when we think about with COVID and more people doing staycations, I think people are saying, actually, if I'm staying in the UK, potentially could I then take my cat rather than leaving them at home or taking them to a borders. So it all makes sense really going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense to me. And perhaps then we can talk a little bit about where you see the future of cat travel going. How do you see that evolving, and what role does Travfurler have in that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we're still at the area at the moment where it as you said, it's picking up as a phenomenon. I don't really like to use the word trend, but back when even with dogs, before you used to take them out, it's now become the norm. I don't think we're at the norm yet, should we say, for taking your cat out. But I definitely think, as I touched on with COVID and staycations, and I think just the more, like with your community, and more other companies are doing spread awareness, I think it's growing. I think that there's still that grey area at the moment of people have to figure out whether their particular cat and their personality would suit it, and kind of the training that comes into it. And I think the more, as we all share our information and advice, and the more people get help, the more it will continue to grow, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. And can you speak a little bit to the situation in the UK if people are traveling with their pets? I mean, aside from being prepared, how easy is it to travel in the UK with cats? Going to hotels or camping grounds or whatever. How easy is it?
So in general, the UK, we're quite a pet friendly nation, specifically on the cat side. So you'll find a lot of Airbnb, place like that. That's not the easiest. Sorry, she's just found the licky licks. Airbnb and other websites that we use in the UK, the filter is normally just pet friendly or dog friendly. So it's harder in that element to actually find accommodation. But a lot of places you'll find, if you contact them, they will say, oh yes, we do accept cats. And aside from that, especially with the staycation element, a lot of people are going out in vans and motorhomes, and with that, I'd say in a way it's easier with the cat. Once you've got them acclimatized to the vehicle itself, then that's easy enough to do within the UK.
Yeah. I mean, in France, it's almost non-existent.
Really?
So it's great. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, in France, the situation's a bit different, but I'm so glad to hear that in the UK and the US and Canada, Australia, it's kind of, it is picking up. Like I said, I don't like to use the word trend either, because I think that diminishes the importance and also the fun and, all of the things that go into it. But, it's slowly becoming more normalized. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. In the UK, sorry, when I say it's easy to do, sorry, so it is still, I would say in general, it's still quite rare to see cats out. For example, in Southampton where we live, we've only recently, I'd say in the last 3 months, seen 2 people out with cats, and I've lived here now for 3 to 5 years. So in the UK as a whole, it is still very, very new to everyone, I think. But it's more, I think if people want to do it, the options are there quite easily, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I imagine, companies, small businesses like yours are helping people do that with, you've got some great products and that can help people do that. So what do you think people most misunderstand about traveling with cats and what it means, perhaps both from the cat owner's point of view and also from the community point of view? What do you think people most misunderstand about that?
So I think sometimes it's the amount of kind of training that needs to go into it, especially there's the difference between having a cat who's a complete house cat that's never been outside, and if you've got a cat that sometimes goes outside and then you want them to travel. So there's different layers to it essentially, and it in some cases can be more of a struggle potentially than with dogs. So I think sometimes maybe it's that perception that you can just get your cat and go and put them in the car, which is not the case. It takes a lot of building up for most cats anyway. And then for the community, I guess it kind of ties into the same thing of when you see pictures and things online of cats out in really cool places and you think, oh, I just want to go and do that and rush to it. But it's again, I think sometimes you don't always see the training that's gone into those scenarios, to be able to get your cat used to, say, being out in the city or in like a busy place down by even by water and things like that. If that makes sense, it's sometimes these senses, which is the reason why you want to take your cat out, is to get them to experience these things. But obviously sometimes that can be overwhelming as well. So it's just accepting that there will be the training element that comes with it as well. And the other one element I would say is how other people might perceive you. So I'm sure we'll talk about kind of how dog owners may perceive you with a cat and the risks that can come with that. But even the general public, I think, because it's still quite a new thing that's happening, I think sometimes people can be taken aback, or people just wouldn't think to do it. So to them it's alien and they don't really understand it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Totally. I mean, that's what I was kind of getting to is, there's still, and let's talk a bit about the, the awareness in the community, because it's a really important issue to the Cats on Leash community, particularly with dog owners. Obviously, as we've, talked about in the past on Instagram, it's a big issue, and that's the, I guess that's all kind of the same stuff, is the awareness of traveling with cats, the awareness that there might be cats where you're going, where you're walking, where you're on hiking trails, when you're in a hotel, there might be cats around, that just increasing that whole awareness. It's all part of the same thing, really, Yeah, for sure. And, you guys are great, because we can kind of, how you can help, and this is how I see your role. I don't want to put that on you at all, but how I see your role in this community is you're like that really nice connector between the different communities, because we do tend to be a little bit segregated, there's the Cats on Leash community, there's the dog community, there might be the Rabbits on Leash community, the Ferrets on Leash community, but we're quite segregated, and you guys are kind of the the little ball in the middle that is speaking to all the communities. So for me, I'm so glad to speak to you today, and I'm just stoked about what you're doing, because you are connecting all of those communities, and no one species has more right than any other to go outside, to go traveling with their family, to have a different bond with their family, and so I love what you're doing in that way.
And that's definitely something. So it's never a case just because myself and my fiance go out more with our dog, or somebody else goes out more with their cat, and it's never there's no favoritism or anything like that. It's purely, we just come from a place of, we know when you love your pet like a baby, then you want to give them what you can, and it's only fair, as you said, that when you're out, that you should be able to use public places and for your pet to feel safe and happy, and really that's essentially what we're trying to achieve with Travfurler, is just to help everybody to do that mission, essentially. If that means connecting the communities and finding ways that we can help each other and look out for one another, then that's our aim, essentially.
Right. I mean, that's I just love that can be your role and is your role. That's so you've got Missy, who's harness trained. Did she train? Tell us a little bit about Missy. How did she come to be trained? What harness and leash do you use with her? And anything you want to share about Missy?
So one of Missy's problems is she's do you want to call her Missy? She's a bit of a wild one, and so essentially our family in general, we used to just let our cats outside. No, she's not on camera. And so over the course of as I was growing up, we did lose a lot of cats due to being hit by car and things like that. And over time, as we learned more about being able to harness trains and those types of things, I wanted to start introducing it with Missy, especially as well because her side of it is she just loves catching wildlife, which I know a cat maybe should be able to be a predator, but obviously I've always had concerns as well about the wildlife. So that was those were my two main reasons really for wanting to harness train her. At this time she had already been going out, so it's been a bit of a harder process to get her used to being out, not on her own accord, but on a harness. And so that was what I started doing back when I was living at my mum's where she lived. And then when I moved out, I'd go back and kind of practice that with her. And then COVID hit. So this is where the struggle's been, at least for us, because I've not been able to, even though my mum now moved nearer to us, we've not been going into each other's houses and those kind of things, obviously while everyone was separated. So she's had about, I'd say 6 months to a year now without really any training. So I'm back to basics at the moment. So I'm just using a very basic harness. It's just the ankle harness and lead. That's what she's got on at the moment. And I'm just really starting from back to the basics. I've got the licky sticks that I just use. I'm just reinforcing her with having the harness on and getting used to it. And then I want to build up back to taking her back out more. The aim really is to get her back down at the beach, which is where we used to love taking her. So I'm hoping to do that. But I'm sure you've seen as well, with everywhere getting busy again, I think it's also that adjustment of getting them used to all the noise and everything again. So hopefully we'll get there soon, but eventually, yeah, we'll upgrade her harness as well, but just getting her used to a basic one for now and getting her comfortable again is the aim.
Yeah, I mean, COVID has had a big impact. I was listening to the impact on people who have been confined and then all of a sudden coming back out into the world, and how that's provoking anxiety states and that sort of thing. I mean, same with our animals too, right? They've been at home with us, you know, or not. Maybe your situation is slightly different, but they've been at home with us. They haven't perhaps been able to go out as much. I mean, there's that same sort of transition anxiety that can happen. Sure.
Exactly. And I think it's also as well, in a way, highlighted the importance to me and a lot of other people with the reason we want to take our pets out, because in the same way we haven't liked being stuck in, not going anywhere, you know, it's like there's a world out there to see, and if you can do it with your pet and both share that experience together and have a bigger bond, then I think it just, this last year has shown how important that is to us and to them as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, for me, it just makes so much sense. They're part of your family. Why is it not normal to travel with them? You know, it just makes total sense to me. You know, total sense.
And I think with now as well, and this maybe is more on the trend topic, but more people are choosing now pets over babies. I think is becoming quite a normal thing now. People are potentially getting older before they're having children. I think when you play into that as well, it's like you can still have that element of travel and having a family with a pet, if that's what you want to do, rather than going straight to having children, those kind of things. So although of course I know animals are slightly different to babies, and some people will say you can't call them fur babies, but I think we both know they are like babies.
Yeah, I think you can call them whatever you want. If they're baby, you feel like babies, they feel like babies. You know, it's just you know, look, I'm just all for people bonding with their cats, with their animals, in whatever way works for them and their cat. And you know, it's just, I think there will be, if we're talking about the future of traveling with cats, and taking cats out on leash, I just think it will become more and more normalized. You know, as we become more aware, you know, our thing at Catventurous, or my thing, and mine and my husband's thing about Catventurous, is all about the I mean, the fun of it, it's great fun, but also the keeping wildlife safe. I mean, as we become more and more conscious of ecosystems and how precious they are, and how disruptive free roaming cats can be, and I just think it's going to be, you know, become more and more of a, you know, social responsibility and a kind of a normalized thing. And all of that goes with traveling with cats too.
And just keeping them safe as well, because like I said, where we've lost a lot of cats unfortunately to being hit by cars or just disappearing, people taking them in, and I think that it really is a huge reason why, even though people might at the moment some people find it strange, actually it makes more sense. There's a reason why you keep a dog on a lead most of the time. You know, you wouldn't just not most people would just let their dog completely run loose in the neighborhood, you know, and it all makes perfect sense. And I think if you love your pet that much, then you want to do right by them and keep them safe, and keeping them on leash is such a good way of doing that.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, the other aspect of that too is that's, you know, really important to my heart is that after working in a refuge for 4 years, I saw the abandonment that happens at around holiday periods. And if we can, it just make, you know, I just get emotional thinking about it. But if like you know, if we can facilitate people and kind of have this cultural shift where people are able to travel easily with their cats, hotels are welcoming cats, you know, all of those things that go with it. And, you know, great products are available, advice is available, communities are available where people can access resources. You know, that type of thing is going to start to, hopefully the rates of abandonment will diminish too.
No, that's a very good point. I haven't fully considered that, so that's a really good point, because I completely agree with rescues and everything. If people can find that they can still go about and do the things through life that they want to do with their pet, then I think that should definitely help.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it makes sense to me for sure that that would help that. So I was going to ask you about, you know, some advice around traveling with pets, and we've kind of touched on it, but like, what is your key piece of advice for people who are traveling with pets?
So should I go more on the cat side, do you think?
I mean, you know, this community is mainly going to be about cats for sure.
So as I've touched on, first thing I would always say is the patience element and the training element, in that really break it down, especially if your cat's never been out, never been in a car, then really break down those steps. Like it may seem a bit too much at first, but say if you're trying to get them used to the car, first step, of course, get them used to a harness and go through the motions of just putting the harness on, giving them some treats. Do that a few times over the course of a week, 2 weeks, however long it takes them to feel comfortable. Then when you move to the car, just, if you can, ideally get them to walk to the car so they feel comfortable going up to it. It's their choice. Then a few times get them in the car, don't start the engine, just get them used to it. And if you break things down into those finer elements, you should find they become a lot more comfortable with it, rather than where I've made the mistakes in the past, even with, as I said, with my last cat, Karma, just jumping straight in it and hoping that they'll be able to get on with that, isn't always going to work, unfortunately. So that would always be my first step, and just that patience of going through those motions. And if you find they're not happy with the situation, go back a step and then go through the rewards, and just build up that positive association essentially with the steps you're doing. Secondly, I really recommend calmers. So there's a lot of natural pet calmers on the market at the moment. I think it's a growing thing, as you said, where everyone's becoming a bit more eco-friendly and want to choose natural things, and there's just so many out there now. And I think in the past, people maybe have been concerned with putting chemicals on and things like that, which I completely understand, but now there's natural remedies that really can, especially for the initial steps, just give them that calm energy, just to help them get used to a scenario, and even just having this backup for if suddenly you find your car breaks down, you're in the middle of somewhere busy and they're not used to it, you know, those kind of things. I think that's an important tip, and we've used with our cats, even with Stephen's cat, his mum and dad. So he's, I think, I want to say 12 now. He's very, very old, and throughout his life he's hated going in the car. He'd throw up, he'd do naughty toilets everywhere, and literally in the last year since they've been using a pet calmer, he literally just goes in the car, no sound, gets there, absolutely nothing. Like we were all in shock, and as it was, because we couldn't believe such a big transformation. So I think don't be afraid to try those things and invest that bit of money on some calmers. And then thirdly, I think just be aware of the perceptions and of others when you're out, and many people are there for help and advice, and sometimes you might get some funny looks or people saying things, but it's just part of the process at the moment as the awareness is growing, essentially. And as I touched on, there's so much help and advice through these kind of communities, blogs, all types of things, that people that want to help. And I think the Adventure Cat community is just so tightly knitted. There's so many amazing accounts, and just everyone behind the accounts are so caring and willing to do help for the good of what they believe in, which is cats should be happy outside. So it's a really special thing, I think, for people should make use of, essentially, and become part of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, if anyone's not part of this community already, jump in. We
Yeah.
are really welcoming, heaps of advice, like access this sort of community before you decide you want to, try this with your cat, or have a kitten that you want to train. Like, there's such great advice out there. We had last episode, we had Jen from the Hiking Cat, and she's just a wealth of information. It's, there's just so much great stuff out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a wonderful community. And perhaps one of our last few questions, I'll ask you, what would make what's the ideal thing that could happen to make the world a better place for cat travelers? If you could wave your magic wand, what would be your
the biggest thing I think does touch on just respect from other people, especially on the dog side, which even on the dog side for other dogs' sake, but also mainly as well for when you're out with a cat, and especially dogs/cats aren't going to be used to seeing each other out at the moment. And I think there has to be that element of respect for each other to be able to adventure safely. I think that's what it comes down to, is the safety. And you shouldn't, as a cat owner, feel, if you're in a public place, unsafe for your cat because there's a dog off leash. And I think by following leash laws, I mean, in the UK we don't have as many on leash places, but I still think that in a way there doesn't need to be a law. If you see somebody with a cat, you should leash your dog, and vice versa and things. It's just about that respect element. I think if I could magically make that a lot better, that would be my dream really at the moment.
Yeah, I think that would be definitely up in my top. Magic spells. I would love to all dog owners understand that there's cats around on leash. That would be, if I could get in their brains, that would be my thing for sure too. I mean, it would just make, I don't know. I never think that there's dog owners. I mean, there's lots of poor encounters and poor reactions to encounters between dogs and cats out on leash. But I think most dog owners would just be devastated to know that their dog hurt a cat. And I think that's just about awareness. I think that's really all it takes, is that those good faith dog owners just don't know that there could be cats out there. And just to even have that layer of awareness there already would just be wonderful. Yeah, I agree. That's my number one thing too. And finally, is there anything you want to talk about that you haven't talked about? Anything that I should have asked you or would like to add to the conversation?
I think that covers everything really. Obviously on our side, we're trying to grow our range and really speak with the community and find out what it is that you think as well would help with your travels as well. And I think as things are picking up more and things are opening back up as well, I think hopefully we can help within that space. And I'd say there's not as many, at least from what we found, true adventure cat companies out there. So really it's finding the products and finding out what's actually needed and what will help is a challenge, but it's something we're hoping that we can help with. So if anyone does ever have any ideas or anything, then feel free to reach out. And we're always happy to help, and we're continuing with our blogs and articles as well, trying to give our advice, both from ourselves with our cats and people within the community as well, to try and share our knowledge and help. So hopefully together we're all making a positive change.
Yeah, I think we are. And I too urge anyone to reach out to Kimberley. She's super approachable, very friendly. She's please reach out to her if you need to. And I'll when this will be posted on YouTube, and in the description box I'll put all of the details of how to reach Travfurler, and on Instagram at Travfurler. It's TRAVFURLER, and travfurler.com. So I'll put all those details down in the description box below. So yeah, I think that's probably about it. So thanks so much for joining us once again, and thank you for, particularly from my point of view, like I said, for being that kind of glue in between all the communities. And it's, we appreciate you being part of the community. I know you're very well liked and respected, and we love what you do. So thank you. We love your philosophy, and yeah, thank you for being there.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of our community, because I think when we look back at when we first started, it's people like you that have really, really helped us grow and kind of given us not just the ideas, but actually the inspiration as well. with some of the things we've been trying to do. So I really feel honoured to as well be part of your journey as well, and hopefully, as I say, in the future we'll keep making things better for lots of cats out there. That's our aim.
Yeah, that's definitely our aim too. And you know, from my point of view, we haven't seen the last of the Cats on Leash awareness campaign. We're going to continue working towards raising awareness in different ways. So there's more to come, and I'm sure that Kimberley and Travfurler will be part of those plans. So once again, thanks very much for joining us, Kimberley. Thank you, Missy. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, all the parents. Thank you, team. And thanks for listening. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye now.